your reading for today. Before we begin, happy Friday. Obviously, we've had a week now of reading Fantastic Mr. Fox. We hope you've been enjoying reading it. So just reflecting back on what you've read so far, can you understand why the book is called Fantastic Mr. Fox? What has he done so far that makes him fantastic, in your opinion? Have a little ponder about that before moving on. Okay, so we're finishing the week with chapter 10 and chapter 11. Okay, so remember, pause when you get a new page on, try and read it yourself, and then press play for me to read for you. Chapter 10, Boggis's Chicken House number 1. This time we must go in a very special direction, said Mr. Fox, pointing sideways and downward. So he and his 4 children started to dig once again. The work went much more slowly now, yet they kept at it with great courage, and little by little the tunnel began to grow. Dad, I wish you would tell us where we are going, said one of the children. I dare not do that, said Mr. Fox, because this place I am hoping to get to is so marvellous that if I described it to you now, you would go crazy with excitement. And then, if we failed to get there, which is very possible, you would die of disappointment. I don't want to raise your hopes too much, my darling. For a long time they kept on digging. For how long they did not know, because there were no days and no nights down there in the murky tunnel. But at last Mr. Fox gave the order to stop. I think, he said, we had better take a peep upstairs now and see where we are. I know where I want to be, but I can't possibly be sure we're anywhere near it. Slowly, warily, the foxes began to slope the tunnel up towards the surface. Up and up it went, until suddenly they came to something hard above their heads, and they couldn't go any further. Mr. Fox reached up to examine this hard thing. It's wood, he whispered. Wooden planks. What does that mean, Dad? It means, unless I'm very much mistaken, that we are right underneath somebody's house, whispered Mr. Fox. Be very quiet now, while I take a peek. Carefully, Mr. Fox began pushing up one of the floorboards. The board creaked most terribly, and they all ducked down, waiting for something awful to happen. Nothing did. So Mr. Fox pushed up a second board, and then, very, very cautiously, he poked his head up through the gap. He let out a shriek of excitement. I've done it, he yelled. I've done it first time. I've done it. I've done it. He pulled himself up through the gap in the floor and started prancing and dancing with joy. Come on up, he sang out. Come up and see where you are, my darlings. What a sight for a hungry fox. Hallelujah! Hooray! Hooray! The 4 small foxes scrambled up out of the tunnel, and what a fantastic sight it was that now met their eyes. They were in a huge shed, and the whole place was teeming with chickens. There were white chickens and brown chickens and black chickens by the 1,000. Boggis's Chicken House number 1, cried Mr. Fox. It's exactly what I was aiming at. I hit it slap in the middle. First time. Isn't that fantastic? And, if I say so, rather clever. The small foxes went wild with excitement. They started running around in all directions, chasing the stupid chickens. Wait, ordered Mr. Fox. Don't lose your heads. Stand back, calm down. Let's do this properly. First of all, everybody have a drink of water. They all ran over to the chicken's drinking trough and lapped up the lovely cool water. Then Mr. Fox chose 3 of the plumpest hens, and with a clever flick of his jaws he killed them instantly. Back to the tunnel, he ordered. Come on. No fooling around. The quicker you move, the quicker you shall have something to eat. One after another, they climbed down through the hole in the floor, and soon they were all standing once again in the dark tunnel. Mr. Fox reached up and pulled the floorboards back into place. He did this with great care. He did it so that no one could tell they had ever been moved. My son, he said, giving the 3 plump hens to the biggest of his 4 small children, run back with these to your mother. Tell her to prepare a feast. Tell her the rest of us will be along in a jiffy as soon as we have made a few other little arrangements. Chapter 11. A surprise for Mrs. Fox. The small fox ran back along the tunnel as fast as he could, carrying the 3 plump hens. He was exploding with joy. Just wait, he kept thinking. Just wait till Mummy sees these. He had a long way to run, but he never stopped once on the way, and he came bursting in upon Mrs. Fox. Mummy, he cried, out of breath. Look, Mummy, look. Wake up and see what I've brought you. Mrs. Fox, who was weaker than ever now from lack of food, opened one eye and looked at the hens. I'm dreaming, she murmured, and closed the eye again. You're not dreaming, Mummy. They're real chickens. We're saved. We're not going to starve. Mrs. Fox opened both eyes and sat up quickly. But, my dear child, she cried, where on earth? Boggis's chicken house number 1, spluttered the small fox. We tunnelled right up under the floor, and you've never seen so many big fat hens in all your life, and Dad said to prepare a feast. They'll be back soon. The sight of food seemed to give new strength to Mrs. Fox. A feast it shall be, she said, standing up. Oh, what a fantastic fox your father is. Hurry up, child, and start plucking those chickens. Far away down in the tunnel, the fantastic Mr. Fox was saying, Now for the next bit, my darlings. This one will be easy as pie. All we have to do is dig another tunnel from here to there. To where, Dad? Don't ask so many questions. Start digging. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 11. Your 5 quickfire questions are: question 1. Why did the foxes know what time it was when they were digging? Sorry, that should say, why didn't the foxes know what time it was when they were digging the tunnel? Question 2. Mr. Fox is whispering. Why do you think that is? Question 3. Find and copy what Mr. Fox says, which lets the reader know the tunnel came out where he had planned. Okay, that's a find and copy direct from the text, so there's no sentence then for that one. Question 4. How does Roald Dahl describe how the little foxes reacted when they saw the chickens? And question 5. What does the word plump mean on page 43? So just to clarify, guys, I've made an error there. I'm really sorry. That question should be, why didn't the foxes know what time it was when they were digging the tunnel? Okay. So, your answers. The foxes did not know the time because there were no days and no nights in the murky tunnel. I think Mr. Fox is whispering because he doesn't want to risk getting caught or one of the farmers hearing him. Question 3. The thing that Mr. Fox says, which lets the reader know that the tunnel came out exactly where he had planned it, was, it's exactly what I was aiming at. I hit it slap in the middle. How does Roald Dahl describe how the little foxes react? So Roald Dahl describes the little foxes as going wild with excitement, running around in different directions and chasing the chickens. And question 5, the word plump means fat all round. So your 3 additional questions, your brain power questions. Why do you think the work went much more slowly when digging this tunnel compared to the previous tunnel? Use page 37 to help you with that one. Question 7. Why might Roald Dahl have chosen to use so many exclamation marks and italics on page 40? And question 8. How has Mr. Fox's attitude changed when compared to how he was feeling yesterday? Okay. How do you know and why do you think this is? So pause the video now. Have a go at answering your questions. Okay, good job, guys. So why do you think the work went much more slowly? Okay, so you should have started your answer. I think the work went much more slowly this time because... Okay. This one is a little bit of common sense, okay? Using what you've read before, so it's contextual, okay? You've got your quote here. The work went much more slowly now, okay? Yet they kept at it with great courage, okay? So courage means that even though they might have been scared even though they might have been tired, they still carried on. Okay, so something along the lines of, I think the work went much more slowly this time because the foxes were tired from all of the digging they had done before, would be an okay answer. Okay. Why might Roald Dahl have chosen to use so many exclamation marks and italics? So you can see here, look, I've done it. I've done it. First time. I've done it. I've done it. So he repeats himself, okay? That tells us as the reader, using the italics and the repetition, that the way in which Mr. Fox is saying something. Okay, you could tell that when I read it. I've done it. He yelled. We're told there he yelled. Okay, I've done it first time. So you can tell from that he's rather proud of himself that he's got that first time. Okay, and again, I've done it. I've done it. You can tell from here. Come up and see where you are, my darlings. What a sight for a hungry fox. Hallelujah, hooray, hooray. All these exclamation marks give the reader the impression that Mr. Fox is really, really happy, really excited. It conveys that really well to us. Okay, so that, I think, is why Roald Dahl chose to use so many exclamation marks and italics. Also, if you have a quick look down here, he does it again. It's exactly what I was aiming at. I hit slap in the middle. First time. Isn't that fantastic? And so you've got your bracket, your italics there again. And if I say so, rather clever. It's not often, guys, that you would call yourself clever. So Mr. Fox is obviously really proud of himself that he's managed to hit the nail on the head and get to the place that he wanted to go to. Okay, and question 8. How has Mr. Fox's attitude changed when compared to how he was feeling yesterday? How do you know, and why do you think this? So again, there's not a certain page you need to look at for this. It's just what you have read today compared to what you read yesterday. So Mr. Fox's attitude has changed because yesterday he felt. Cast your mind back to how he felt when he was down the hole and those monstrous machines were trying to get in, to get him and his family. How did he feel? Today he feels how? Okay, so they're quite different, the emotions that he's feeling. Okay, so have a go at answering that question.
Good morning, Year 3. I hope you're all well. We are going to be looking more at equivalent fractions today. So before we get started on today's maths lesson, we'll do just a quick check on yesterday's answers for the do it and the secure it. So I'm going to get my purple pen ready. What I'll do is I'll just talk through the first couple and write the answers on. So give yourself a tick if you've got it right. Now, please remember, if you've not got it right, that is absolutely fine. It's not the end of the world. I would just want you to think about, can you work out where you'd gone wrong or what did you do wrong? If you find that you've not got the first one right and you realise that what mistake it is that you've made and you think you might have done it on the other ones, just pause the video and have a quick look at your other questions and just maybe check them over. If you feel that you have made a mistake and you've done that with all of them, if it's just a silly error, then you can change them, correct them before I go through the answers. That's absolutely fine. What we don't want though is you changing the answers as I'm doing it, because remember guys, changing your answers so that it looks like you got it right doesn't help. If you make it nice and clear that you've just had another go at it, that's fine. But remember, if you've changed your answer so it looks like you've got it right first time, that doesn't help you, and it definitely doesn't help me know whether you've got it or not. All right, so remember, we learn from our mistakes, so it is absolutely fine if you get it wrong. I don't expect everyone to be getting these all perfectly right straight away, because obviously this is a very different way of learning to what we'd normally do. So please do not stress if you haven't got it. Okay, so number 1 then, you've got 3 different bar models there, and an equivalent fraction was being represented on all of those bars, and all you had to do was write those 3 fractions in your book. Okay, so for number 1, you've got 1/4 first, which is equivalent to, here we've got 1, 2, 8ths. Okay, and on the bottom one you've got 1, 2, 3 12ths. So that one looks like it was really easy because your numerators just go 1, 2, 3, and then your denominators go up in 4s. Okay, but that's not always the case though. So for number 2, to start off with, we know that our denominators are in 5ths, 10ths and 15ths. So the first one here then, that's 1/5, then we've got 2 10ths, and then we've got 3 15ths. Okay, and then number 3, so it starts to change slightly. Our first bar is representing 1/3, 1 part out of 3 equal parts. The next one is 2/6, and the next one is 4/12, not 3, it's 4. Okay. The number 4 is where I've tried to trick you slightly by not giving you the denominators and only colouring in the fraction for your on the first bar model, and you've got to work out what they are equivalent to with those bar models shown for you. So the first fraction was 2/3, that's 2 out of 3 equal parts. The second bar model, what you needed to do was check how many equal parts you had altogether. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So your denominator should be 6. Okay, and if I was to shade in one so that it matches up to the one above, I'll be colouring it up to there. Okay, if I draw that line, that's where it would be going, and that is 4 of those 6 equal parts. Okay, so 2/3 is equal to 4/6. Okay, and then the last one, I've got 12ths there. There's 12 equal parts altogether. Okay, on that last one. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There would have been 8 12ths. Okay, so just have a little look at the pattern between those denominators there and your numerators. Now, this doesn't work for the other ones because our numerators on the others, it always starts with a unit fraction. So most of those have gone up by 1 unit in your numerators. But for this one, we can spot a pattern. Okay, so if you look at your denominators, if we start with 3s and it goes into 6ths and then goes from 6ths into 12ths, they can all be multiplied by the same amount. So 3 times 2 would be 6, 6 times 2 is 12. Now whatever you do to your denominator, we could do to our top. So double 3 is 6. So looking at 2/3 to find out how many 6 it would have been, we could have doubled 2, we would have got 4. And then double 6 is 12, double 4 is 8. So that was your do it. Hopefully that was nice and simple having the representations there for you. So you'll secure it. There was a few examples you could have done to prove this. So Ellie says that she thinks that 1/3 is equivalent, so the same as, equal to 3/6. Is she correct? Explain why. So the first thing you could have got a mark for was saying no. She is not correct. So well done if you said no, if you've disagreed with her. And here there are a few different ways you could have explained this. You could have drawn a bar model. Now your bar, I'll draw one here for you. To prove this, oopsie, your bar model would have needed to have been 2 bars that are the same length. Okay, so you could have used a ruler to do this. I'm just going to very quickly do that. So I've got 2 the same length here. And the first fraction she's looking at is 1/3. So I'm just going to split that first bar into 3 sort of equal parts. It's quite hard when I've not got a ruler. And then she's looking at 3/6. Now, if I do that, match that up into thirds and split each third in halves, that will give me twice the amount. So I will have 6ths. I'm trying to do this quite quickly, so it might not be absolutely perfect. Okay, so you could have proven it this way. Okay, so she thinks that 1/3, I'm just going to colour in that 1/3, is equal to 3/6. Well, straight away, with those 2 bars lined up, we can see that it is not equal to 3/6. Okay, you can see how many 6s are there. 1, 2. Okay, 3/6 would have been here, which actually would have been greater than 1/3. Okay, it'd have been more than 1/3. So we could have said, you could have drawn that if you did that as an explanation. That would have been brilliant if you just said, well, no, 1/3 is actually equal to 2/6. 3/6 as well, this could have been another way if you spotted this. 3/6 is actually equal to, well, if you look at your numerator, what do you notice about your numerator and your denominator? Your numerator is half, so 3 is half of 6, which means 3/6 is equal to 1/2. Okay, so it can't be 1/2 and 1/3 isn't the same, is it? So it can't be, she can't be true. She can't be correct. Okay, so if you did that, that's another, you can have an extra mark there. Okay, so you could have got 3 marks there. Well done if you've got just that first bit right, that you said no, but remember, we're always looking to explain and prove why. That really shows me if you've understood something. Okay. Right then, so for today, pause me so you can write down your date and your LO. We're continuing to find equivalent fractions today. Okay, super. So now we're going to have a little look at this. This is called a fraction wall here. Okay, that's a fraction wall. Now, this just has fractions that can go into one another and they're all matched up. So it's really easy to look at equivalent fractions here, just to really help reiterate that representation to help you understand it. Okay, now you can see at the top here, we've got 1, 2, so there's 2 equal parts there. So this is 1/2. Now you can see that 1/2 is greater than all the other fractions. I'm just going to draw a line. Can you see that 1/2 is greater than 1/4, then 1/8, and greater than 1/12? Okay, actually the smaller the denominator, the greater that fraction. Okay, in unit fractions anyway. So over here to the side, we've got 1/2 is equal to how many quarters, how many eighths, and 6 what? So have a quick little think. Can you use that fraction wall to work out what is 1/2 equal to? How many quarters is it equal to? Okay, so if you look below, this is where you've got your quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I colour them in so that it matches the same, it is equal to 2 quarters. Okay, so next we're looking at eighths. So pause me whilst you find out how many eighths is equal to 1/2. Think about what we know about the numerator and denominator when we're finding fractions equal to 1/2. Off you go. Super, so hopefully you know that half of 8 is 4, so 4/8 would be 1/2, equal to 1/2. So now I'll just quickly show them 1, 2, 3, 4, just to prove it. Now the next one, I'm not even going to bother counting how many equal parts there are. Can you remember what the pattern is when finding fractions equal to 1/2? So if our numerator is 6, we've said that our numerator is half of the denominator if it's equal to half. What will our denominator be? Okay, 6 is half of what? Hopefully you're all screaming 12. 6 is half of 12. So 6/12 would be equal to 1/2. Okay, now the next bit, we're going to have a look at 1/4. Now remember, 1/4 is half of a half. So just to remind you, if I just rub off everything that I've scribbled on here. So if you just have a little look here, so that's your half, okay, and this is a quarter. So a quarter is half of a half, okay. If you split a half in half, you have a quarter. So 1/4 is equal to 2 what? Okay, so this is 1/4 here. Okay, so what have you done to your 1 to get 2? So what will you need to do to your denominator to get your denominator? Okay, so underneath you can see here, if I was to shade in 2 of these, it would be equal to 1/2. How many equal parts are there altogether on that blue one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it'll be 2/8. Okay. And then next one, a nice way that you can use to remember this as well. If we've got 8, okay, add that denominator. and we're dividing it by 4, the original denominator, our answer is 2. Okay, so we're finding fractions that are equivalent to 1/4 here. So we could have done, to find that denominator, multiplied our original denominator by the new numerator, which is 2, and that would have given us 8. Now we're finding 3 what is equivalent to 1/4. Okay, so if you've got that as your denominator, you can multiply your numerator. What would that give us at the bottom? Okay, if we're going up in 4s, it would have been 12. Okay, 3/12, as you can see there. Okay, right, so now just refreshed our memory with that. There's lots of different ways. The skills that we're using here to really help us when finding equivalent fractions is our multiplying and our dividing. Those facts and skills are crucial to this, and it does start to make sense the more we practice it. Okay, so here I've got a number line. It starts on 0, okay, and it goes up to 1 whole. Okay, now this 1 whole has been split into 12 equal parts. I've got 1/12 here, 2/12, 6/12 in the middle there. Okay, and then 7, 8/12, 9/12, 10/12, 11/12, and then this is where 12/12 would have been. Okay, because 12/12 is equal to 1 whole. It's 12 out of all of the 12 parts. That's all of the parts. So the 0 would have been 0/12. Okay, so up above I have got 1/4, 3/4, 1/3, 2/3, and 1/4. Now all of these fractions can go somewhere on this number line and it will be equal to that many 12ths. Okay, so we're going to have a little go. We're going to start with 1/4. Now remember we said quarter is the same as half of a half. Okay, now we've got 12 equal parts here, so our whole amount is 12. So think about what half of 12 is and half of that. That might give you a little bit of a clue. But this is how we can find our equivalent fractions. Now we're trying to find out how many 12ths would be equivalent to 1/4. So our denominator would be 12. Okay. Now just have a little look. What can we do to that 4 to get 12? Think about your multiplication skills. What do you do to 4 to get 12? We multiply it by, we times it by 3. Okay, so your numerator is 1. What are we going to do to 1 to find that numerator? We're going to do exactly the same. We're going to multiply that by 3 as well. Okay, 1 times 3 is, nice and easy, 3. So 1/4 is equal to 3/12. So I'm going to find 3/12, which is here. Okay, and what I'm going to do as well, I'm going to use my pink pen. If I split all of this into 4 equal parts, if I've got 12 there, so it's 1, 2, 3, so that's 1/4, which means that would be 2/4, which we should know because that's halfway. And then that would be another quarter. Okay, so I've got my quarters then. I'm just going to write here 1/4 equals 3/12. Okay, so next we're going to look at 3/4. Okay, I'm just going to pop that then. I'm going to write it again here. 3/4 equals how many 12ths? Okay, what do we do to denominator to get 12? We multiply it by 3 because we know that 4 times 3 is 12. So what are we going to do to our numerator? Multiply it by 3 as well. Okay, and 3 times 3 is 9. So 3/4 is equal to 9/12. And if you have a look, if I said that was 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. Perfect, and it is 9/12. That's good, isn't it? Okay, so now we're going to have a look at 1/3. All right, so I'm going to get a different colour pen. Do it in red. Okay, so I've got 1/3 equal to, we're looking at 12ths here. Okay, what do we do to 3 to get 12? Now, think about your multiplication facts. Okay, what am I going to multiply my 3 by to get 12? 4. Okay, so what do I do to my numerator? Exactly the same as what I did to my denominator. Multiply it by 4. 1 times 4 is 4. So 1/3 is equal to 4/12. So this is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4/12. That is equal to 1/3. Now using my red pen, I'm just going to have a look. So if that's 1/3, if there's 4/12 and 1/3, if I add another 4/12, that will get me, let me just pop, that's 1/3. Another 4/12, 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be my second third, and that would be my whole. Okay, can you see where I've got 3 parts now between those marks? So we're now looking at 2/3. Well, if 4/12 is 1/3, how many twelfths would be 2/3? I'm going to write it up here just to double check. I think I know, using that fact we've just found out. 2/3 is equal to how many twelfths? See if you can pause me now and have a quick go. Okay, super. So you should have done 3 times 4 gets you 12. So you'd have to do 2 times 4 as well. Okay, and 2 times 4 is 8. Oh, can't do my 8. Okay, so 2/3 is equal to 8. Oh, what have I done, silliness, Carrington? 8. Oh, no, sorry, ignore me. I thought I'd put 8 twos then. I couldn't see the 1. Sorry, so 8/12, which is there. And funnily enough, we had already put a red mark there. So that'd be 0. That's 1/3, 2/3, and then that would have been 3/3, 1 whole. Okay, so 2/3 can go there. Then the last one is 1/6. Okay, so for 1/6, let me go on purple. So 1/6 is equal to how many 12s? Well, what do you do to get 12? 12. What do you do to 6 to get 12? You multiply it by 2. Okay, so what do we do to our numerator? Exactly the same. We're going to multiply it by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. So 1/6 is equal to 2/12. Okay, so we've got 2/12 there. Okay, so we've now got on there our equivalent fractions, all these different fractions that are equivalent to different amounts of twelfths. So I'll leave that there for you as well if you need to come back to it to help you. And there's some lovely examples there for you to find those equivalent fractions when you've not got a bar model or representation, okay? By finding out how you can multiply your denominator to get to your next denominator and how you do that for your numerator as well, okay? So let's have a quick practice at that. I've got 2 representations to help you if you need it. And I've got 2 fractions written here. So 4/8 is equal to how many quarters? Okay, how many quarters? Now I have got some representations there, so I'll do that bit first. So 4/8. Now which of these ones represent 8? Is it this one or this one? Hopefully you've all said this one because it has 8 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. And it's got 4/8. So we just need to shade in 4 of those 8 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we want to know what that's equal to in quarters. So over here, we've got a shape that has been split into 4 equal parts. Now we need to shade on that one the exact same as what's on my 8ths representation. Okay, and if you have a look at it, all I've done is shaded in this block. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do here as well. Now, how many of those quarters have I shaded in for it to be equal to my 4/8? 2. I've shaded in simply 2 quarters because all of that's equal to a half. Now, again, what you could have done here, because this is started with the 8ths instead of the quarters. Now, we're not going to multiply 8 to get 4, but what we can do is actually divide it. Okay, what do you divide 8 by to get 4? How many 4s go into 8? 2. All you've had to do is half it. So you would do the same to your numerator. 4 divided by 2 would equal 2. Okay, so that's how we found that equivalent fraction. Now here we've got 2/6. Okay, so before I use that bar model, can you have a quick go? What are you going to do to that 6 to get back to 3? If it's going smaller, that means we need to divide instead of multiply. What are you going to divide 6 by to get 3? How many 3's go into 6? Hopefully you're saying 2, because 6 divided by 2 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6. So 2 divided by 2 would equal 1. Okay, let's just double check that over here. So my 2/6 that I already had, this is the one that's showing 6 equal parts. If I shade in 2 of those, 1, 2, okay, and then over here I've got 3 equal parts, shade in the same amount. I don't colour in any more, just use the same amount of colour, and I've got 1/3. Okay, can you see how they are equivalent? Right, I think we'll just have a go at, oh, where have I gone? Yeah, 2 more, okay, before you having a go at your do it. So here we go. You can pause me if you like to see if you can have a go at it before I show you how to do it. Can you get the answer? Now I've given you your denominators here. So if you've got 6 as your denominator there, what are you going to do to that 6 to get 12? So what are you going to do to your numerator to get your next numerator? Have a go. Okay, super. So you might have used your pictures here to help you, but we know that 6, here we'd have to multiply it because it's getting bigger. Multiply it by 2 to get 12, so 2 times by 2 is 4. Okay, just to double check that over here, this is my one that's split into 6 equal parts. 1, 2. Okay, so for my 12th over here, to colour in the same amount there, if I just look at where my 6's would have been like that, almost. So yeah, it would have been that part, those parts, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 12ths. Well done if you got that right. Okay, so now I've not written your numerators here. Instead, I've given it you in a sentence. 6/12 is equivalent to how many 6? Okay, 6/12. Now let's have a little look here. Which of these fractions has 12ths as a denominator? It's this one. So we know that's going to be 6/12 is equal to how many 6? Well, firstly, have a quick look. What do you notice about 6 and 12? What's that going to be equivalent to? What do you do to get from 12 back to that 6? The number's getting smaller, so we would divide it, okay? And we would divide that by 2 because half of 12 is 6, which means for our numerator, we would have to also divide that by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Okay, you could have used the representation there to help you as well. So we knew it was 6/12. So which of these shows 12ths? It's this one because it's got many more parts. It's got double the amount. So for 6/12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, you can see straight away that is actually simply half of the amount. Okay, which means over here to find the equivalent in 6. We've just simply been that, okay, which is 3/6. It is half. Okie dokie. So we can finish that sentence there. 6/12 is equivalent to 3/6. Okay, then, so for your do it in your book, I do not want you to draw anything. You don't have to draw anything. If you want to have a go, that's fine, but it can get a bit confusing if you've not got squared paper, because it won't actually look equivalent, and I don't want that to confuse you more. So all I want you to do is in your book write for me the equivalent fraction, okay, and then you can write it as a sentence like that. Okay, now this first one at the top here, this, as it says repeatedly on it, is an example. You don't need to do that. It's been done for you. Okay, but it just shows you there how it can look. All right, so here it says the fraction that it gave you was 6/8 is equal to how many quarters? So you would have divided 8 and think about how you divide 8 to get 4, and that is half of it, so you divide it by 2 to get 4, so that would mean for your numerator you do the same, divide 6 by 2 to get 3. Okay, and then the words in a sentence, 6/8 is equivalent to 3/4. I'd like you to have a go at the words as well. There is a pictorial representation there to help you. Okay, but obviously you're not printing these out, you're not going to have that done for you. It is on the screen, so you can have a look at it and think, okay, well that could be 1/3. So for number 1, this is the one that's representing your 3 equal parts, that would be 1/3. How many ninths would that equal? Okay, but also think about the pattern that we've been doing. So what would you do to 3 to get 9? It's getting greater, so it's going to be multiplied, and what will you do to your numerator? So in your book, you're going to write number 1, 1/3 is equal to how many ninths? And then if you want to do those arrows like I did, multiply it by what? Whoops, multiply it by what? And then same with your numerator, multiply it by what? You can do that, that's absolutely fine, and then you're going to write the sentence next to it. Okay, same for both of those. For number 3, where it doesn't give you your denominator here or here, that's when you're going to look at your pictures. Okay, what is there? Okay, what is the denominator? How many equal parts are there all together? All right, so pause me now, have a go at that. I'm just going to get rid of all my squiggles on here for you so it's nice and clear for you. Okay, pause me now, have a go at your do it in your book, and then when you're done, press play again, and I'll quickly talk you through your secure it. Okay, good luck. Okay, well done, superstars. Here is your secure it. Now, I've given you 2 today, just because it's a Friday, make you work that little bit extra hard before the weekend, and we will go through these for you on Monday. Okay, so secure it, you've got number 1, and number 2. Okay, number 1, which is the odd one out? Explain why. So if I were you, I'd work out what fraction is being represented in each of those, have a look at what's similar, what's the same about them, okay, and what's different about them, and then can you find which one is the odd one out? Think about what some of them might be equivalent to, okay? Look for patterns between your numerators and your denominators, okay? Number 2, Teddy makes this fraction. I'm not going to tell you what it is, okay? Think about how many equal parts he's got, how many he shaded in. Mo says he can make an equivalent fraction to that with a denominator of 9, okay? So Mo says he can make a fraction that's equivalent to Teddy's, okay? Equivalent to Teddy's using the denominator 9. Dora disagrees. She says it can't have a denominator of 9 because the denominator would need to be double 3. Who is correct? Who is incorrect? Explain why. Okay, so for that, there's a few answers you can get there. Okay, there's more than one thing that you've got to give me to get those marks. All right, so I want to know who is correct, who is incorrect, and I want an explanation for each. Okay, so I think that can give you 4 marks. All right, so there's lots of marks you can earn there. Right, guys, good luck. Thank you so much for working really hard and listening. You're doing amazing. You guys are great at your multiplication facts and your division facts. So use those, spot those facts to help you with this, okay? That's really, really important. Can't wait to mark these with you next week on Monday. Let me know how you get on. If there's any problems, do just email me. That's not a problem. Have a great weekend, guys. See you soon. Bye.
Hi everyone, welcome back to your writing session. I hope you're really excited to carry on with that piece of discussion writing that we're going to do in a minute. But we're going to start our session as we always do with that bit of sentence doctor. We're thinking about that punctuation again. Again, like I said to you yesterday, I've got you a lovely bit of a challenge today. There are 8 punctuation mistakes to find in this sentence. It's not my fault, May grumbled. Stephen did it first. And what I'd like you to do is pause the video, copy out the sentence, correct all the punctuation mistakes that you can find. Remember, you're looking for 8 and then come back to me once you've done it. Pause the video. Okay, did you manage to spot all 8 of the mistakes. Let's have a little look. So started off again, it was a speech marks that was in, we've got speech again, but it's in 2 halves. It's not my fault, Stephen did it first, is our speech. 1 set of speech marks around it's not my fault. And the second set of speech marks behind round Stephen did it first. Remembering that once we start our speech marks, we've got a capital letter, that was one was included. We've got it's being it is not my fault, so it's a contraction, so it's got our apostrophe because we're missing that it out, the I. So we've got a contraction apostrophe there. Remembering that when we've put our speech marks in, we have to put some punctuation in, otherwise the words all fall out. So we've got a comma because we're carrying on with this sentence after May grumbled. May grumbled, again we need to corner off that sentence so we can start our next one. Starting with speech, speech always starts with a capital letter, but even more so in this case because it's a name, a proper noun, so we've got the capital S, and remembering to close that speech mark at the end. Hopefully you found all 8 of those mistakes today, and you've enjoyed going through our different bits of punctuation that we've been focusing on this week. So today we're carrying on with our discussion that we were writing yesterday. So our objective is to write an effective discussion. And we've been looking at those discussion texts and thinking about showing our reader both sides of the argument, giving them lots and lots of information so that they can make up their own minds about the issue. And our issue, remember, is should Fox be shot or not? So when we looked at the text, we were looking at lots of different ways that the author had informed our reader. And we said that they used facts and numbers, such as 32% of animals are at risk. He used persuasive language, like minuscule cages and endangered species. We had a balanced number of arguments. Remember, we had 3 reasons for and 3 reasons against. We had the introduction, the conclusion. They gave us the opinion of experts, zoologist Matt Jenkins, and they also used those connectives, those conjunctions that we were talking about on Wednesday, on the other hand, and however, to give us those opposing arguments. So today, when we're writing our effective discussion, we've done our introduction, we wrote that yesterday. We're now on to our reasons for, our reasons against, and our conclusion. So we're going to write these 2 paragraphs first. Let's have a little look and remind ourselves what this could look like. So this was our zoos one that we were looking for. And as I'm reading it through, just be thinking to yourself, what has the author done that makes this writing effective that I perhaps can be thinking about of using in my own writing when I come to do that in a moment. So on the one hand, some people believe that zoos should be banned for good. Every day people can see or increase their knowledge of any wild animals in its natural habitat because they can simply tune into a TV programme or buy a video. This has led some animal rights activists to claim that zoos are out of date, even though thousands of people visit them every year. They argue that it is extremely cruel to capture creatures from the wild, transport them over long distances and keep them holed up in minuscule cages or enclosures, just so human beings can be entertained. Shockingly, zoologist Matt Jenkins, who is a leading expert in this field, has stated that zoochosis, which is an abnormal behaviour like rocking or swaying, is often developed by captive animals which show they are bored and unhappy in their prison-like conditions. He therefore concludes that it is wrong to keep animals in environments which could cause such stress to them, even if zoos are trying their best to mimic what life might be like in the wild. So what I want you to do now is just pause the video, have a little read through. What has the author done that makes the writing effective, and are there any words or phrases that you think you might be able to borrow, to magpie from this text and use in your writing when we should go to write about Mr. Fox? Okay, let's see if you found any of these. So you will notice that they had some adverbs of time in here, okay? And you notice the word every day, every year. So we're trying to make sure that people understand this is always happening. So we could say something in our text about every day. Fox goes out and steals more and more chickens. It's adding that bit of emotion to it. We've got that emotive language, this persuasion that we talked about. So keep them holed up in minuscule cages just so human beings can be entertained. A really important one. We've got that on the other hand. That was our oppositional conjunction that we were using there as well. We've got some more emotive language down at the bottom. Could cause stress to them. We talked about those coordinating conjunctions, that in addition to. And we've got an evaluative adverb in there as well. So shockingly, really helps to bring the argument home. So this is our plan for our writing for our discussion. So should Fox be shot? The farmers think yes. And you've got some ideas in your book from yesterday and you were planning your argument. But if you need some extras, mine are on the screen as well. And you're going to have a go now at writing 2 paragraphs. One saying that foxes should be shot and giving me the reasons why. And one saying that foxes shouldn't be shot and giving me the reasons why. And what I'd like you to do is go back to the learning that we did on Wednesday and think about your conjunctions to add more information and your conjunctions to contrast. So when you're moving from one paragraph to the other paragraph, you're going to start with one of these. And when you're adding those information, so we've got more than one reason, we're going to be using those additional conjunctions here. Okay, so leave this on the screen for yourselves, pause the video, have a go at writing your for paragraph and your against paragraph. Okay, 1 paragraph of each. One with all the reasons why you want the fox shot and one with all the reasons why you don't want them shot. And remember to try and use some of those emotive language. Maybe you'll talk to an expert. Maybe farmer bloggist will be in yours. Maybe you'll give us some facts and figures as well. So pause the video and write your 2 paragraphs. Come back to me before you write your conclusion. Okay, fantastic job. I'm really, really excited to see what you've been writing about for your for and against paragraphs. We're going to move on now. I'm going to write our conclusion. We're going to write this together because it doesn't need to be very long, as you can see from the example on the screen. So in conclusion, having carefully considered both sides of the arguments, it seems that there are still arguments for retaining zoos. These should, however, be planned carefully with the animals' welfare in mind, because in a modern world there is no excuse for keeping animals in cramped or cruel conditions. So if we have a think about our conclusion that we are going to write, it starts with a signpost, so something like in conclusion, or to sum up, or thinking about all of the issues, or I can see why. So it gives us a clue that we are writing our conclusion. It sums up the argument and it gives the author's opinion and the reasons for this. So let's have a little go at writing this together to start with. Okay, so we're going to need to start this section with a signpost. So we need to tell people that we are at the end of the piece that we've been writing. So I might use in conclusion. I could use to sum up. I think I'm going to go with having considered both sides of the argument. I think that fox should not be shot, so giving my author's opinion, because he is trying his best to help his family, and it is natural for foxes to eat chickens. Okay, so I've started with a signpost. Yep, I've given my opinion and the reason for my opinion. I haven't really summed up both sides of the argument. I wonder if I could put something else in. Having considered both sides of the argument, it is clear that some people think that foxes should be shot, but other people think that they should not. I think that fox... Okay, let's read that through and see if that makes sense, because I've done all 3 of the things that I needed to do in my conclusion. So, having considered both sides of the argument, it is clear that some people think that foxes should be shot, but other people think they should not. I think that Fox should not be shot because he is trying his best to help his family, and it is natural for foxes to eat chickens. What do you think? Does that work as a conclusion? Short, sums up the arguments, gives my point of view? Yeah, I think I'm okay with that. Okay, so now we've had a little look at my conclusion. Have a go at writing your own. It just needs to be a couple of sentences, nice and short, to the point. Start with one of the sentence starters on the screen to help you. Make sure you tell me what you think and why you think it. Okay, so pause the video now and write your conclusion. Okay, so now you've written all of your text. You have your introduction that you wrote yesterday, you've got your main paragraphs that you wrote today, you've got a conclusion that we've written together. Have a little think, go back to it. Have you got an introduction? Have you got reasons for, reasons against? Have you got a conclusion? Have you got paragraphs that link those things together? Have you used those addition conjunctions, the opposition conjunctions that we talked about? Have you used some generalisers, some people, maybe? Have you used the present tense? Have you included the third person? I want you to think carefully about what you think you've done well in your writing and how you've made sure that writing is super effective. And I want you to think about what you might do next time. But what I really, really, really want you to do, once you've gone through your work, you've edited it, you've made any changes that you need to make it absolutely super duper, is make sure that you send that writing to Miss Cunnington and Miss Foster, because they are super excited to see how you've gotten on with your first discussion text. So it's year 3 at redbrookhayes.staffs.sch.uk for Miss Cunnington, and it's year 4 at redbrookhayes.staffs.sch.uk for Miss Foster. We're really, really excited to see what you've been up to, so make sure you do send those in photographs, or if you've been typing, you can send us the Word documents as well, but we're really looking forward to that. So today's our final day with this particular connected curriculum topic. Remember that we've been talking about countries. We've been talking about the location of different countries and the location of different particular monuments or wonders of the world. Hopefully you have got enough time today to finish your challenge and make sure you send that over to us. We're looking for either some World of Wonders top trumps cards from you. We're looking for perhaps an information poster about one of the wonders of the world from you. Or we're looking for an interactive world map, either made on the computer or as a poster. It doesn't matter, but make sure that when you finish those projects today, that you send them across to Miss Cunnington and Miss Foster, because we've got a whole new set of challenges for you coming up next week, which is all linked to the water cycle. And I know that you're going to have a really great time investigating and finding out all about it. So it just leaves me to say have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. We will see you back here on Monday with even more exciting lessons for you. And we will see you very soon. Bye, guys.